I'm Martin, education manager here at ProVeg. So I'm going to do a little introduction, a little bit about us, who we are, and then Alex is going to come in a little bit with some of the whys and the hows. So yeah, we are ProVeg UK. In the UK, we work on a program called School Plates, and we all to do with school food. So we've heard a lot about sort of waste and energy. We're here about food, and that's our sort of focus. Now, the way we work is we talk about these sort of small changes to make big impact. And I think that's sort of quite important. It's with this climate education and everything like that, and the climate action plans, there's a lot that schools have to take on. So we're looking at little nudges that they can do to hopefully have this big impact overall. Now, a little background about us. We are a global organisation. So we work around the world, in all the continents, actually. We have teams, the dark green kind of where we have our key teams. And we're also part of a global school food network as well, which we actually set up around the globe. So it's quite a big thing. But in the UK, specifically, we focus on school meals and school food. And that's sort of why we're going to talk to you today, a little bit more about that. So there's a lot more information about things we do in other countries, but I think school food is what we need to focus on for today. Now, we aim simply to make our school food healthier, but probably for today and what's key in this conversation is about being more sustainable and looking at the sustainability side. Now, it just so happens that also a lot of the changes we make are more inclusive. So in regards to allergies, religious beliefs, things like that. And they can also help schools save money. So there are added bonuses, not just the sustainability and health bonuses. Currently, we are working with 90 major catering partners, and we have worked with or working with, maybe you're one of those, about a third of all UK authorities. Obviously, with the way things are going at the moment, a lot of school catering has been outsourced and they're contract caterers and things like that. But we are working with partners like that. So if they're swapping, that's fine. We've done that before. So currently, over 7,500 schools are part of our scheme and have these menus. And that means that every day around a million children have the option to choose from the menus that we've worked with the schools and with caterers to provide. And since our inception, which was in 2018, I mean, I don't know how that number is so precise, but we've sort of swapped out approaching 40 million meals from being animal-based to plant-based. And Alex will sort of explain a little bit more about the background for that later. Now, everything we do is evidence-based, so we don't just sort of make this up. This is something that we take from research and the latest research and sort of government organisations, everything like that. So all of our ideas and all the things we work with are based on evidence. And one of those is the Climate Committee Change, or the Change Committee, sorry, about talking about offering a fully plant-based option every single day, which we can help schools to achieve, and also about the training. So often the cooks and the chefs have cooked one way for years and years and years. They feel they don't have the ability to change that always. So one thing we do provide is actual training for your chefs. And as an organisation, we are fully funded. So that does mean that all of our kind of programs, all of our help, our support, we can provide for free. So that's always quite an important thing. And that often gets schools' eyes lighting up. And now I'll pass over to Alex.
Thank you very much. I'm the kind of sandwich filler here. Martin's coming back to you afterwards to talk more about education. So in the Midlands, we're looking at sustainability through school meals, and you're probably already aware of these facts, but just to quickly share again, farming animals for food is responsible for at least 20% of greenhouse gas emissions, which is more than the entire global transport sector, which is quite a staggering figure, leading cause of deforestation, water use, biodiversity loss, and species extinction. And over here on the right, you can see that beef emits 50 times more greenhouse gases per gram of protein than pulses such as beans and lentils. So you probably know this, but this is a sort of information that Martin will be sharing with children as part of his education program. How much does transport account for? When you're thinking about greenhouse gas emissions for food, would you think it'd be less than 1% or 10 to 20% or more than 30%? A lot of talk is happening at the moment about locally sourced food, and that is very important. But actually, that answer is A, less than 1% is accounted for by transport. And here's, it's not just us saying that, but Dr. Angela Trier from the University of Edinburgh Business School. And she said that all her research has pointed to carbon footprint depending more on which food is on the menu rather than how far they've travelled. So it's kind of mind-boggling because we tend to think of transport costs, transport costing a lot in terms of emissions, but actually it's really important which kind of food we're eating. Carbon emissions, as I mentioned, from plant-based products are between 10 and 50 times lower than animal-based products. So if we can include these dishes and these options on a menu, it's going to help the overall emissions for that school, even if it's once a week. And there's an example of a typical school meal carbon footprint. As you can see, the meat-based carbon footprint is a lot bigger than the vegetarian one, which is about half of that, and half again for your typical plant-based school meal. And of course, you have to do these swaps and these nudges very gently. You can't just suddenly confront kids with a carrot and expect them to run towards it with glee. You've got to make it attractive. So you would look at substituting, for example, a plant-based spaghetti bolognese for the typical spaghetti bolognese of days gone by. And you can see the cost saving, the fat goes down, the fiber goes up. This isn't related to the climate, but there is a fiber crisis in the UK at the moment. The protein is more in the dish on the right, the plant-based dish, and the emissions are right down. So it's a win-win situation. And here's an example of a steak pie. On the left, you've got one that's pure beef, and then gradually adding more lentils until it's a 50-50 mix. So one of the things we encourage, especially on our new updated awards, is blending. So where you want to gradually increase the amount of plant protein in a meat-based dish, like a mince dish, for example, you're combining it with lentils or a protein source, then you will find that not only is it cheaper quite significantly, and that's really attractive to schools, but also the carbon emissions going right down. And so how do we encourage schools and caterers and councils to take these steps? Because everybody loves an award, and people want to know that the menu that their kids are eating, for example, is one that's received recognition for work on sustainability and health. So there are three categories of awards: bronze, silver, and gold. And we help councils and caterers and schools, even individual schools, work on their menu, nudging these positive behaviours as recommended by the World Resources Institute, which have been proven to encourage those choices for children on the menu. And so it's literally a list that they can go down and tick off. And as they go, they keep coming back to us with another revised version of their draft menu, and their score goes up. So it's a really positive approach that's worked very well, and the awards have become nationally recognised and quite coveted since they launched. Just to give a big shout out to Hackney Council, an example of the kinds of things you can do when you don't have a council caterer that looks after the entire area, but lots of split up different groups. They sent a school meals survey to 181 schools. They had 45 respondents. They had a plant-based school food webinar with 17 schools, and then a workshop which 8 schools attended. Then they went into schools for plant-based tasting sessions, and the result currently is that 13 of their schools and 8 children's centres have won a bronze award for their menus. And the 3 of these are in-house caterers, one is a contract caterer. We've been invited to their next school leaders forum to present. We have a very close working relationship with them where we get together every couple of months to see how things are going and if there's anything we can do to move things along.
Okay, fantastic. So back
Martin.
to me. So I've been going into schools and sort of to tell the children. We've always worked with caterers and authorities and not necessarily done so much with the children. So we can create these menus, but ultimately we want children to choose from these menus a little bit more and be a bit aware of their food choices and its impact. So often going to schools, mainly primary schools, and this is the sort of thing we kind of share with the children to get them a little bit thinking about the changes that they can make and that impact. So this is about just swapping one of their meals. So if everyone in their school swapped one meal, we talked about sort of the different ways that this could save. So this is obviously a water saving, and actually it's over 1 million. So for this one, the meal swaps comes in about that for a primary school average one for a year. So it's over 1 million litres of water. And obviously to put that into context, we talk about showers. Average UK shower apparently is 5 minutes. I'm sure some people push that average right up, but that's sort of the equivalent. So that gives them a bit more of a context to it. We also talk about land use. Animal products take up a lot more land than plant-based products. So then that sort of way you can save land. Again, with tennis courts, it's actually about 103 tennis courts of land could be saved by them just switching one meal. And this obviously has a school, so it's sort of scaled up a little per part. And then obviously this is what they maybe hear about most is the carbon emissions, the greenhouse gas emissions. Now, video streaming is a big thing at the moment. So we sort of talk about the carbon behind that. People just mentioned actually earlier on this call about AI and the carbon emissions around AI. So if every child in that school swapped just one meal a week from an animal, it would actually save quite a lot of carbon, and we kind of commit that to other things. Ultimately, it's nearly 36 years worth of continual video streaming would release the same kind of carbon footprint. So these kind of give the children a bit more of an idea about their small little changes can sort of impact up quite large. And then you can scale this up to the whole school. It might be the whole county, the whole country. And actually, we work on some of these in our lessons. And talking of that, sort of canteen to classroom is our education program. It doesn't need to run alongside school plates. So if your school caterers aren't at the point to go on this journey just yet or not ready for it, but the children can still learn about their food and still learn about the impact that food can have on their health, but also the climate. We see on the news, all these things in the news, and children want to know how they can actually do something about that. And every day in school, they put something onto their plates. And also, we hope that then what they learn in their school can then take away to their sort of communities, their families, their friends, and sort of create a movement. So how can you kind of get this involved? Well, just signpost the schools, and we have a web page there. Again, just like our menu and the help we do with the caterers, all of it is for free. So schools don't have to pay anything for all these resources, and they're all linked to the curriculum. So everything is sort of can fit in around what schools already do. It's not just sort of a random thing to do. It fits in with maths or science or whatever subjects they might be studying. And it can be an easy win for their climate action plans if they have one. I know Let's Go Zero, you're fantastic at getting these schools to have them. But it's sort of an easy win for them. Recladding a roof, things like that are huge for schools to go through. Whereas just teaching their children a few lessons every week or a couple of months is an easy way in. And also they're the sort of the future change makers, aren't they, children? So we'd hope that maybe you could introduce this to some of your schools, or at least point them in the right direction. So before we finish, a few key takeaways. When I wrote that, I thought it's not really a great word to use probably for healthy eating takeaways. But anyway, so school plates, that is our program that works with school food caterers. You can get in touch with us. We provide everything for free. And really the simplest way to start with that is just sending us a menu. All of the information is on our webpage, and we've got some emails for you in a moment, but just send the menu in and we can help support you and take the schools and your caterers or your councils on a little journey together, and then it's at your pace. And the other side of that is obviously the canteen to classroom. So this is the more the education side of being in the classroom and teaching the children about the food they eat, about climate change, and sort of like we talked about right at the start about how small little changes can actually end up having a big and a large impact on their lives, whether it's their health, the health of the planet, the health of nature, and then they take in communities, and this momentum, this keeps building and building and building. So like I said, everything's on our webpage. If you're interested in sort of the awards, we have a specific email for the awards. And a lot of things are data driven. So at ProVeg, we have sort of a data lead, Sarah, who's very interested in taking numbers from schools. So if schools are interested in actually sort of counting their carbon or counting the meal changes and providing some information and data around that, she's a great person to contact. So thank you.